Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking and Reviews. This morning we are going to be talking about a couple of Absolute Carnage tie-ins. Absolute Carnage is one of the better books that's been running this year, and definitely one of the best events. It's a lot of fun. It's not. I don't feel like it's really groundbreaking. It's just really well written and really well drawn. For an Absolute Carnage storyline, you know what I mean? Like, from Maximum Carnage from the 90s, like, that was so big and so bloated, and it was just so all over the place that even though I have like some nostalgia feelings about it, in the end I don't really consider it to be like one of the greatest, you know, event storylines of all time. And Absolute Carnage is really no different. Comparing it to like House of X, like, and Powers of 10, like, that's really great comic book event stuff. It's changing everything. Absolute Carnage is doing some interesting things, and it's a lot of fun, but in the end it's still kind of like just more of the same, just taking, you know, we're making it bigger and bigger. I also kind of feel like the whole thing with Cletus Cassidy trying to wake up Null, it feels very much like Dracula and like a minion. Who's the guy from the original Bram Stoker's Dracula? Renfield or something like that. The guy who's like does his bidding, the one that's bringing everything to him. I feel like it's very much like Null speaking to Carnage cosmically through the symbiotes to get him to collect all the things that you need to wake him up. I feel it's a very much vampiric kind of story. Kind of fits the whole symbiote and parasitic relationship that they have with everybody. But today we're talking about Amazing Spider-Man number 30 and Absolute Carnage Immortal Hulk number 1. This is a one-shot, or this is a one-shot. This is a tie-in of an ongoing series. Now, this one we'll talk about first because Ryan Ottley's finally back for a couple of issues, and Nick Spencer. So anyway, they've been really good together. I've been kind of losing a little bit of interest in Amazing Spider-Man over the last few issues, just because, well, I'm just not a fan of the last like storyline that they were doing. But in this, it's kind of, I'm not going to say unnecessary, but we do have like the character of Kindred, right? So they show like how this is kind of tying things together a little bit, where we see that Kindred went to see Norman Osborn, and he, you know, before this all happened, before the symbiote went in and Norman thinks he's Cletus now. That's a little bit interesting, and it's also cool to see Otley get to draw a bunch of like images from Spider-Man's past, like him getting the symbiote costume. They bring it up about Secret Wars and the Beyonder, and so we actually get to see Ryan Otley's version of like Carnage and symbiotes and Venom and what they look like. And it's him just kind of talking about how it's his responsibility. Like, if he hadn't messed with that machine way back in Secret Wars, you know, none of this would happen. So it's a lot of this is also people thinking that they got to take responsibility. It's something that carries over into Immortal Hulk, the story in there. And again, they kind of go over like the past stories of, you know, Norman taking the Carnage and symbiote and becoming Red Goblin, and just more of that. It's a very exposition heavy thing, and then we get to see him, you know, like talking about the past with Gwen Stacy. And so all during this fight with Norman, who thinks he's Cletus, he's just going over like this past event of Flash coming home and friends coming together for Harry Osborn's birthday, and how all these things that he keeps losing in these fights. And it's, you know, it's all internal, which is kind of good, but it doesn't really move the Amazing Spider-Man plot along. Again, it's a true tie-in, so it's like, while I love Ryan Otley's art, I feel like we're wasting it in a very exposition-heavy storyline. The one cool thing is what Kindred's saying about, you know, him and Norman and Peter's relationship, and it makes me wonder who is Kindred. I'm starting to think that it's Harry, but it could be somebody else. I hope it's not Gwen Stacy. But the way they talk, it's like it feels like it's somebody close, but not too close. And so I'm thinking right now, if I had to pick, it'd be Harry Osborn, just cause. But let's get to talking about Absolute Carnage Immortal Hulk. Now this one does, again, it ties things together. I also like that it's actually written by Al Ewing. I didn't think that this would be written by the guy who does Immortal Hulk. Mostly because the same day Immortal Hulk number 24 comes out, right? And so they usually just get somebody else to just throw and slap something together, and I actually thought this was going to be crap. And while it's, again, not really that necessary, it's important to the plot of Absolute Carnage, not really, and they try to throw in some important stuff for Immortal Hulk in here as well. It also explains, like, what I said in Absolute Carnage number 3 review, like, how did Banner get here? Why is Banner here, especially with what's going on in his own book? And that is explained completely. But I still don't know if I agree with, like, the timeline. Like, they suddenly just took a side tour really quickly to take care of Absolute Carnage stuff. Like, while that's going on, he's got this huge thing going on with the Shadow Base and stuff. It's just a lot. It's like a lot of places to be for characters. It's starting to feel kind of like the DC universe, having way too many characters involved in different plot lines of different stories. But what I do like is this whole thing of them in the mind, and we don't know who he's talking to. This whole time, we don't know who he's talking to. And they also bring up two alters that are kind of like taking a hiatus here. It's dormant. Kind of like Legion's personalities and stuff can be dormant. And so, it is pretty interesting, them talking and discussing, like, how they got here and finding out about the bodies and, where Thunderbolt Ross was buried. And Bruce thinking it's his responsibility, like Peter thinks, like, I started this, it's my fault. And slowly but surely, all the personalities start to come into the room, like Joe, and eventually, like, classic Hulk, and then Immortal Hulk, which he's like this big brown, almost looks like the original Abomination character. And so they end up going, like, to the gravesite to, find out if Ross is still there, what's going on. But it also comes up with, like, the whole thing about fathers, like Bruce's father and Thunderbolt being, Betty's father, and all these ties to family. And the one above all, or one below all, like, Hulk is starting to think maybe there's a connection there between Null and, his own dad. I love this, like, Hulk looking at the bodies, and there's Thunderbolt Ross just kind of crumpled up on top of all these other corpses. So in a way, this book is pretty good and stays kind of true to the Immortal Hulk book as far as tone. The art is not very impressive, but, like, as long as the story is good, if it's well, written all right, then I kind of can ignore it. And it's not absolutely terrible. It's just not my favorite kind of art. And he goes through all the, like, other Hulks, like, their opinions on this whole thing, and it's very psychological, like Immortal Hulk is. And he eventually goes to New York to find out what's going on and become a part of it. He meets Spider-Man. Spider-Man brings him in to everybody else. And then we get to the moment where, Venom's going to try to blend with Hulk. And how Immortal Hulk, Death Hulk, or whatever they're calling him, Devil Hulk, he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. He's telling him, like, this is a parasite. It does not care about us. This is not, like, going to end well. It's just going to take our strength and use us for our own purposes, and we don't want to be used. And I really like that thought about it. But Bruce just kind of, again, because of, like, Peter's way of thinking about it, it's my responsibility. We can use that strength and we'll figure things out. And so that's this whole conversation. You still never find out who he's talking to. But again, this is about the best shot in the whole book, is the art from him being melding with Hulk. I like that part. All in all, it's not the worst tie-ins, especially Immortal Hulk having Al Ewing on the art or in the writing for it. So it does stay true to Immortal Hulk, and it doesn't feel like somebody just doing another interpretation because you got the guy writing it. So he gets to stay true to the character instead of somebody just completely changing Immortal Hulk's storyline or the way the tone is and stuff like that. So it still feels like the kind of horror book tie-in. So I definitely say that Amazing Spider-Man is a little bit lesser important to the Absolute Carnage storyline, and at least Immortal Hulk stays true to its book. I mean, I do like the fact that they throw in the Kindred stuff in Amazing Spider-Man a little bit more, but it's like still, we've been getting teased this since, I think, before Nick Spencer even took over as the writer of Amazing Spider-Man. So anyway, two pretty good books. I mean, I'm still on board with Amazing Spider-Man as long as we don't get back to what they were doing just before this tie-in series was going on. I was like, after Hunted, I feel like Amazing Spider-Man started to go like downhill a little bit. Well, Immortal Hulk to me is still like top 3-4 books that are being made right now. So anyway, if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. We're going to be back with more comic reviews later, but I got to go to work. So it won't be till tonight. So have a great day, everybody. Keep reading comics, and we'll see you next time. Bye.